Hi, I'm Jim Williams, and today we're going to talk about Applefest here in Franklin. Applefest started in 1983, so this was our 35th year. Applefest started as a 2-hour apple pie baking contest, and a group of people in the Chamber of Commerce back then, I was not involved then, the Chamber of Commerce wanted to put together a local event, sort of as a community rallying, morale boosting, fun event, and somebody came up with the idea that there is some apple, actually the apple heritage around here. Johnny Appleseed supposedly came through here and planted seeds, and also there are some very large apple orchards in the area, not as many as there used to be. So that theme got turned into this apple pie baking contest, and winners were announced and the pies were auctioned off for charity, and that was it. It was a huge success, and so the next year it was a little bigger and some events were added, and pretty soon there were some crafters that were thrown in and some other food, and 35 years later it encompasses 3 days. We closed down Liberty Street on Saturday and Sunday that goes through the center of town for the festival's use. We now have 350 vendors that come to Applefest, and various crafts and artists and food. The car show the antique car show is on the city streets all through the downtown on Sunday, and we can park about 450 to 500 classic cars in our little downtown. And of course, every car that comes is coming with at least one person, sometimes 4 or 6, depending on how big the car is, that want to come to Applefest too. And that is we have been told that it is one of the nicest car shows around because it's non-judged. It's just basically a place to show off your antique car, come to a nice festival for a few hours. And we couldn't do that if the city of Franklin didn't allow us to close down Liberty Street and some other streets. And they have been very cooperative with us because of the benefit to the festival and the town. Applefest's real benefit is to the community as a whole, but specifically the business community gets a real shot in the arm at a time where it probably is a little slower time for retail after summer, before Christmas. The local retailers obviously do a lot of business during Applefest because of all the people that are suddenly in town. So they run specials and sidewalk sales and lots of signage to attract people. The restaurants are full. The restaurants even put on more help, and so you can imagine if you're a college kid and you want to make a few bucks, all of the restaurants are, they put on waiters and waitresses just for the weekend. They make extra tips. It's good for them. The hotels are full all through the area. You can't get a room probably as far away as Butler. Nonprofit organizations that's a whole nother story. The nonprofit organizations make a lot of money for their organizations, for their charities. Many of the nonprofits have vendor booths in the park, and the Boy Scouts sell hot dogs and bottled water, and I could go on, but much of the food that is sold in the park is sold by nonprofit organizations that raise money. We also we call it Nonprofit Row, which is just a row of tents and displays of various nonprofit organizations showing off what they do. They have it's basically an information booth, and for a very nominal fee, they can set up in Nonprofit Row. They have to they have to reserve and be assigned the spot because the spots all sell out, and they can run raffles out of their tent, and they staff it with their volunteers for information purposes. So it's a great way for nonprofits to get their word out. when the weather is nice, it is challenging to walk through Applefest and the sidewalks and the streets, and that's really what gives the nonprofit organizations their exposure. Is that the crowd moves slowly, people have time to look, and they can pick up brochures, and we really take a lot of pride that our local nonprofits really get a boost from the crowd in a way that they couldn't do on their own.